Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. You're joined by me, Mark, and of course, Reese, who is to my left. And we are here previewing the Belgium Grand Prix. This is the last Grand Prix before the break, the 3-week break that is in August. So it's the last Grand Prix of the first half of the season. I know we've had more than half the races, but now we get into the break, and then we get into silly season as well. But as I said, one more Grand Prix to go, and it is my favorite track. I know it's one of Reese's favorites. I'm not sure if he said it was his absolute favorite, but it certainly is my favorite. That is Spa in Belgium here, and of course, very, very, very famous turn there and the corner, Rouge. Of course, everybody knows it very, very well, and cannot wait to see all the cars, the new spec cars in 2023, going down that and going around the circuit. It's a long, long track. And it's certainly going to be a very interesting Grand Prix. Now, last week we had, obviously, the Grand Prix in Hungary. And Max Verstappen wiped the floor with that. But McLaren's are still looking strong. So, Reese, what could we expect this weekend from the entire board? And what are we looking forward to in terms of this weekend's Grand Prix?
Well, it should be a very exciting Grand Prix weekend. We've already seen some leaks of upgrades being brought to this race weekend. Mercedes have brought a circuit-specific rear wing, which is meant to bring a highest top speed. I doubt that's going to get used, though, with all of the rain that's been predicted this weekend. We will talk a bit about that a bit further on. But, I mean, they've also brought new side pod inlets, so a lot of talking points about those upgrades. From Mercedes, I think the McLarens are going to be fast, as well as the Red Bulls are just going to be, once again, on form.
Yeah, and I think the Red Bull upgrades last weekend certainly did work. I mean, Max Verstappen suddenly got that winning margin right back up to massive gaps again, and he was just in a different level. And also Perez, starting in 9th, managed to get up all the way up into it was a 3rd position, it was 4th position, sorry. Third. It was third. Yeah, he wasn't the podium. Yeah. I don't know why I doubted myself, but yeah, 3rd position. So, Red Bull just looking as quick as ever. So, it's in Belgium this weekend. So, Formula One is heading to Spa. So, some stats, Reese. You got some stats there for us?
Yes, I do have some stats for you. The first Grand Prix that was held here was in 1950. So, this circuit has been on the Formula One calendar for quite some time. The track length is 7.004 kilometers. It is currently our longest track on the Formula One calendar, with the lap record being a 1 minute 46.2 set by Valtteri Bottas in 2018. The most pole positions here is held by Lewis Hamilton with 6. Most wins is also 6 by Michael Schumacher, though. And then pole position, the pole run to turn 1's braking point is 165 meters. So that is how far you have to drive from that pole position at the start of a race. So it's still quite a long run to get to that first corner, and of course, being such a long circuit, it's a very difficult first lap.
And more to the point as well, my favorite part of the track is certainly I mean, funny enough, of course, there's a Rouge, which is very famous to watch, but it's not my favorite part of the track. The best part is actually the last few corners. You just see that final sector is absolute, just pedal to the metal and just go for it, and it's just long winding turns. It's a long left-hander followed by another long right-hander into that very, very sharp then braking point right at the end before starting the lap again. And it's my favorite part of the track. You see overtakes happen there all the time as well.
It's a very old school track, very akin to the Tilke tracks. I don't know if it is a Tilke design track. It very well may be, but it's all about rhythm and flow, and finding good rhythm and flow helps you to get a good lap time around here.
And of course, this is the famous circuit that we've had that commentary as well. It says, but here comes Sebastian Vettel. That was, of course, here in this circuit. So could we have similar sort of things for, not Vettel, of course, at that time he was driving for Ferrari. Could we have similar things for those in Ferrari with Charles Leclerc? Because before we go on into, all the Ferrari news, we'll continue with just a couple of more stats on the track. But, we do have big Ferrari news, and the fact that they've fired their team, the race director, and they've got a new one for this weekend. So that's big news in Ferrari. So could Charles Leclerc be the new commentary spectacle this weekend? Could Ferrari maybe do something very quickly before we continue with the stats?
Well, I don't know. They could make some good opportunities here this weekend with all of the bad weather that has been predicted. We've seen their car isn't necessarily too bad in the wet, so hopefully they are able to do all right from that standpoint. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you touched on it, Mark, but there have been some shakeups in the Ferrari factory this past week. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens behind the scenes of Ferrari.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, let's just go actually straight to Ferrari. The fact that, yeah, Ferrari have appointed a new F1 sporting director as Mekis has departed the Formula One team there. Laurent Mekis has officially left his role at the Scuderia ahead of his move to become AlphaTauri's team principal in 2024. So that in itself is big news there. But Ferrari almost feel it's actually a bit of an advantage. They've almost like hopefully improved because let's be honest, nothing in that Ferrari setup is working very, very well. So I suppose having new personnel come in and have some fresh ideas can't be the worst thing.
No, I think it's good to get some fresh blood in there. Of course, you want to have someone with experience, so hopefully they do. I think they're just taking from down the line in their actual um, garage, aren't they, Mark, to replace Mickey's. I don't think they're hiring a new hire, but yeah, they've got so many people in their mechanics pool and their engineers pool that they just have so many people with experience to call on, and hopefully those people are able to step things up for Ferrari.
Yeah, so we're hearing from the Scuderia that the following changes have been made within team structure for this weekend. So, yeah, Ferrari explained that Meki's sporting director role will be taken up by Diego Laverno, a respected Ferrari veteran of 23 years. And he says, as from, I think this is Fred, this is just going and seeing who's being quoted here. It is, yeah, Ferrari,
Likely
this is
that
just a Ferrari spokesperson. Just says, as for the Belgium Grand Prix, part of Lawrence's duties on the pit wall will be carried out by Diego Laverno, who takes on the role of sporting director. He will be responsible for all sporting matters, as well as liaising with the FIA. Along with his colleagues on the pit wall, Matteo Tognanelli, head of track engineering, and Ravin Jean, race strategist, he will report directly to team principal Fred Vasseur. So, yeah, big changes there in Ferrari with regards to the running of the race weekend, and it's going to be a big test for them in Spa. They've been very disappointed these past few weekends. Could they turn it around a little bit this weekend?
Well, I certainly hope so. It's been, as you say, quite disappointing over the last few race weekends. They seem to be finding pace in the first half of the season. Uh, Not starting too great, but as I said, finding a bit more pace in the middle of the first half, and then just falling off again. So, yeah, I'm hoping they're able to pick up the pieces a bit. Yeah.
And another team, of course, who's fallen off, and I've got an article up here from motorsport.com, is that of Aston Martin. Now, they're still third in the Constructors' Championships, just by the way. I mean, it's still incredible to see the fact that it's still right up there, but certainly coming under huge
Yeah.
pressure now because McLaren are just going to keep climbing that table quicker and quicker and quicker. So, currently in the points table goes Red Bull first, Mercedes second, and then Aston Martin third. Ferrari is behind Aston Martin, but Aston Martin are dropping so quickly. So, what has happened to the green machine? And here, just reading the article, it says, for an outfit that finished seventh in the standings last term, it emerged as a surprise package, the team closest to troubling Red Bull, that being Aston Martin. But in the 5 Grand Prix since Aston Martin driver has only once more classified in the top 3, Alonso's second place in Canada disrupts a run of 2 sevenths, a ninth, and a 5th place finish in his side of the garage. So, really not great finishes for Aston Martin these past few Grand Prix. And having led Mercedes in the points up until Spain, the Silverstone-based squad had fallen 39 points behind the Silver Arrows to third. Albeit a lack of pace plus questionable strategy and pit stop execution from Ferrari has relieved the pressure from behind them. Nonetheless, compared to last season, Aston is exceeding expectations, but compared to the first half of the season, really struggling now. So, the Hungarian Grand Prix last weekend was anticipated both externally and internally to have arrested any results decline. A low-speed circuit nature was expected to have suited the AMR 23's strong downforce and mechanical grip, whilst mitigating its straight-line efficiency deficiencies. However, Alonso led Lance Stroll for a muted 9th and 10th finish. And Alonso said in Silverstone that the team needed to make it to the summer break before resetting. In Budapest, he added that Aston was now only 5th fastest overall. So, just saying that this car desperately needs upgrades, Reese.
Yes, and I think I saw an article saying that they are trying to bring upgrades for Zandvoort, which of course is the next race after the summer break. So hopefully Aston Martin are able to expedite those upgrades and find some more pace in that car because they really are just falling behind now.
Yeah,
And McLaren are going to pick up the pieces if they don't. sort things out.
Yeah, exactly. McLaren is hunting down not just Aston Martin, but Ferrari as well, and maybe even Mercedes if they're not careful. Still enough races left for that to happen. So Alonso, though, the two-time champion, noted, he said, it's hard for us, being Aston Martin, to understand a little bit better what the car is doing now compared to the beginning of the season. How many upgrades we brought compared to our main competitors, and then understanding the new tyres the best. They're the same for everybody, so we just need to do a better job. His bosses are far from panicking, though. They also reject his suggestion that the more robust Pirelli tyre construction introduced for the British Grand Prix has particularly hurt Aston and Red Bull. Performance director Tom McCulloch confirms there are no big changes in performance. However, everybody else seems to have increased their performance, so I think that is the little bit of the concern there. They will reset, they said during the break, so it's just about where they will finish this weekend. Quickly, Reese, where do you reckon Aston Martin will finish this weekend?
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't want to say they're going to finish up too high because they historically in the past few races have not been. So I'm going to say they'll be in the top 10, but not in the top 5. So maybe 6th and 7th.
That's quite high, to be fair, because I mean that's going to have
Yeah.
two Red Bulls. Let's just say 1, 2. I'm not necessarily this order, but teams that are supposedly better than Aston Martin are. You're saying Red Bull 1, 2, McLaren 3, 4, Mercedes 5, 6, Ferrari 7, 8. You know, Aston Martin, if they manage to finish ahead of a Ferrari and or a McLaren slash Mercedes, I suppose it's not
I
too
think
bad a
there'll be a
weekend.
big crash or two here. So I think some of the top 5 are going to get taken off this weekend. I'm just making a wild call. It is Spa and it's in the wet. So
Yeah, I mean it is
and I
Spa in the
mean
West.
it's Fernando Alonso in the wet as well.
Yeah,
So
it's a very
can't
very
count
good
him out
point.
too. So maybe he might be top 5.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you know, we were going to go and go to talk about that next, and we'll just segue straight into that. So the weather this weekend is looking very, very wet in Belgium. We're talking rain every day, pretty much every session. So it's going to be a very, very wet weekend. Wet weather running in Spa. It's going to be, you know, it's quite dangerous to drive. We know this is quite a dangerous track.
Yeah, very.
It's a very, very quick track, so had pace and add skiddiness. It's a recipe for a bit of a disaster. But, you know, Max Verstappen in his Red Bull car has not had a single instant really the entire season. You know, he's finished every race very, very high up, got unbelievable points for himself. I mean, will he finish the first half of the season before the break without having a single instant in track?
Sorry, were you talking about Max?
Yes.
Well, I think he's been very cautious and rightfully so. He's wanting to break all these records, and he has been breaking quite a few already. He's got 12 wins in a row with Red Bull, the longest winning streak that anyone has had. I think he'll be wanting to carry that on. He's got 7 in a row at the moment for himself. We see how he's very cautious into turn 1 usually and off his start. So I think he'll be fine. Yeah, I think people are also quite cautious around him. I think it's more the midfield and some of the other drivers a little bit further back than him that just take some extra chances.
And you know, it's the chances we talk about taking here, and it's going to be in the wet, so we're going to see intermediate tires and wet tires, and it's going to be decisions with regards to that. You know, cars might find themselves in the wall, and that's why we also see the safety car probability for this weekend. It normally sits at 63% anyway, which is really, really high. Which, you know, it's very, very likely you have a safety car here in Spa. Now, with added weather, that's going to be even higher. And if those safety cars should happen right near the end of the race, that really does put a little bit of pressure on Max Verstappen and that Red Bull in terms of just trying to make sure he goes out and wins yet another Grand Prix. Because, of course, Red Bull have won every single Grand Prix this season.
I'm glad you spoke about the safety car, Mark, because I have stats on that for you.
Go for it.
So the safety car probability around the circuit, what do you think it is?
That's what I
We've
just said.
had
It's
quite a few
63%.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't
Yes.
know you had it in front of you. Well, virtual safety car probability here is 25%. So, I mean, even if we don't have a full safety car, there's still quite a high percent chance of having a virtual safety car, especially in the rain. If there's any debris that needs to be picked up, it's going to be quite difficult to recover that. So you're going to need a virtual safety car or even sometimes a full safety car.
Yeah, and Max Verstappen has only ever got poled here once, and that was in 2021. So Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari in 2022, he got pole last year. So it sort of leans towards maybe Ferrari, maybe Carlos Sainz suits this track, but again, it's in the wet. It's going to be very, very difficult to actually understand who's going to finish where. Max Verstappen, though, has gone on
Well,
to
I
win.
know it does. I know it does suit three drivers down the grid. That's Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Fernando Alonso. They are all great uh, wet weather drivers. I would say, of course, Vettel if he was still in Formula One, but of course he's retired. But I think we'll be seeing some. Maybe Oscar Piastri might be very good in the wet. He's shown that he is a great qualifier. Maybe he's just able to pull out something different in the wet as well.
And on the note of Oscar Piastri, I mean, he's been performing very, very well these last couple of races. Of course, very disappointed not to make a podium for a second time in a row in terms of the car performing and Lando Norris getting second twice in a row. Him not able to do so. Do you think he can finally break that drought this weekend? Maybe he will get onto the podium for the first time in his F1 career. I mean, how impressive has he been these last few weeks?
He's really impressed me the last few weeks. He's been given a race, well, possible race winning car, and he's just driven it as high as it can go up the grid. I mean, he's been able to challenge Lando Norris in qualifying as well as during the race. So he's really, really been driving very well and certainly impressed me quite a lot. I think he certainly deserves a podium, but whether that's going to happen, it's well yet to be seen. We'll have to wait till qualifying and the race on Sunday.
Yeah, so this weekend, strategy and the setup and weather, of course, are the big, big, big factors that affect how you do in Spa for all the teams. So, as touched on, Spa is the longest lap on the F1 calendar with 19 wide-ranging corners making up the layout. Whilst this means there is generally more time to react to an incident and make a pit stop call, if for whatever reason a team misses the chance to box, there's a long, long wait to correct it. Now, unfortunately, we've seen that with a particular presenter on the show, Reese, when we did our... we always do a racing stream before every weekend we go and race the track, and Reese came into the pits to change off of his intermediate tyres as the weather was drying and went on to intermediate tyres again. And the problem is that, just relating straight to that, it's a very long track for you to make a mistake. You cannot afford to have a strategy mistake like that, where, if a team should decide to miss the boxing opportunity, it's like a minute and 45 seconds at minimum that you're going to wait until you get round.
That's a qualifying lap.
Exactly.
A race lap is sometimes over 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Especially in the wet, it's more 2 minutes 10, 2 minutes 20. So it's a very, very long lap. If you're running on a set of wet tires in the dry, you're really going to struggle if you get that pit strategy wrong.
Yeah. So tire degradation and managing the car and making the right decisions in terms of strategy and when to go in is so crucial because, as you say, you cannot afford to wait because it's such a long track and it takes such a long time to get around. If you miss the opportunity to do so, you lose out on almost 2 minutes worth of time that you could have been quicker. So if somebody else gets there ahead of you, it's going to be significantly advantageous to that team. So absolutely crucial that they do make the decisions right. So as you say, the lap record is 146.2. So that's we're looking easily, as you say, towards those 2 minute times. So the compounds for this weekend, though, is interesting. For the first time, we don't have the C3, C4, and C5 tires. We have the C2, C3, and C4 tires. So the slightly harder compound tires out of the 5 for the year. So it's the first change in a while. So do you think that's going to have any effect as well?
Well, I don't think we're going to run them, to be honest.
True. We do have a lot of wet weather.
Rain, so, yeah, I mean, something we've also, I think, maybe forgotten to talk about. It's a sprint race weekend. It's not just a normal race weekend. It's going to be quite interesting to see what happens in the sprint. We could see maybe some outliers that could possibly predict what happens on Sunday as well, just giving us a bit of a taste for some drivers in the rain in Spa, which is a very difficult track to drive in the wet. But if you're going to have a good race weekend in the wet, it's going to be around here.
Yeah, and maybe Alpine can actually finish a race.
I don't know. So will it be 3 weekends in a row or not?
Yeah, I must say they're looking for 3 and 3. No, hopefully not. I'm sure Ocon and Gasly will be absolutely daring to go and hopefully just at least finish the sprint before the main race on Sunday. So yes, as Reese alludes to, this weekend's structure and the format. We will have practice 1 tomorrow in the middle of the day. We will then have qualifying for the race on Sunday tomorrow evening. Then on Saturday, we have the sprint shootout in the morning, which is basically qualifying for the sprint, and then the sprint race in the afternoon, followed by the Grand Prix on Sunday. We also have F3 and F2 action happening again this weekend, and they follow the same format as Formula 1 this weekend. So they'll also have practice tomorrow morning, then qualifying, then the sprint shootout on Saturday, then the sprint itself, and then the race on Sunday. So very, very action-packed weekend, and you can catch it all here on Forever Motorsports with me and Reese on Forever Sports. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video, and comment down below, who do you think is going to win the Belgium Grand Prix, or otherwise who's your top 3 and what could happen this weekend. So Reese, I'm going to leave with that question to you. Who is going to be our top 3 this weekend?
Well, Max Verstappen, let's say, will be first, of course. Then I'm going to say Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton in third.
Lewis Hamilton third, Lando Norris second. That's a very safe bet. I think, you know what, I'm gonna completely...
All wet weather drivers.
Yeah, they are all wet weather drivers, but I'm gonna completely change the dynamic here, and I'm gonna say Max Verstappen 1, yes. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna give 4, but just because I can then say where the other one's gonna arrive. But I'm gonna say Max Verstappen 1. I'm gonna say Lewis Hamilton 2. Charles Leclerc 3 and Lando Norris 4. I reckon somehow,
Piastri.
well, Piastri will be somewhere 5th, 6th, somewhere around there. But
I really want him to get onto the podium, but
I know.
I don't know what he's like in the wet, so we might see this weekend.
I just think that surely Charles Leclerc has to get something go right for him in the first half of the season, just before the break. Surely something has to go right for Ferrari. I'm hoping this weekend it will be that time. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Charles Leclerc makes a podium this weekend somehow. So that's my prediction. Bold.
You've got a lot of Ferrari fans excited, but we'll wait and see whether that excitement is short-lived or whether it's rightful. Yeah, but I think it's going to be an interesting race weekend. Who do you think is going to be the first retiree from this race weekend, either in the sprint race or in the feature race on Sunday?
Funny enough, I'm actually going to go with Yuki Tsunoda. I'm going to say Yuki Tsunoda is going to crash out because he tends to be a bit reckless, especially in not just the Grand Prix. At least in the Grand Prix, there's a bit of a gap, so you can afford to be reckless. In the sprint, it's very, very cramped up together. I reckon in the sprint, he will at least spin out or maybe crash and collide with somebody else. That's my prediction. I reckon Yuki Tsunoda will probably collide with someone. And also, I reckon this weekend, Ricciardo will beat his teammate yet again.
Yes, I think Ricciardo is going to find a lot more pace this weekend at a track he really does enjoy. Yeah, I think he's going to have a good one and possibly show some better pace here. Will he be able to get quite close to Sergio Perez? Don't know just yet, but it could be quite exciting if he does.
I mean, I don't think so in the race, but maybe in qualifying.
I think in qualifying, yes, that's what I mean, of course.
Yeah. But guys, thank you so much for watching Forever Motorsports. This is the Belgium Grand Prix preview, and what an exciting weekend we have in store here on Forever Motorsports. So as I said, don't go anywhere. You're going to be on our streams. You're going to be on everything this weekend. So please do enjoy all of our content. From me and Reese, we're heading out of the preview, and enjoy the rest of your day further. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.